Hello everyone, this is Sarah Kelani. I'm the Advanced Audit and Assurance Tutor at Phoenix Financial Training. So, your exam is coming up. So, at this point guys, in this video, what I want to tell you is the final points and exam tips that you can use. Now, let's start with a little bit of debrief of what this exam is all about. You've got two sections guys. All of it is compulsory. Question number 1 is 50% of the exam. Try not to panic. It's not only one question and one requirement, but you will have multiple requirements and multiple syllabus areas to cover there. The second section has 2 questions. Each one is worth 25% of the exam. This exam is going to be a computer-based exam, meaning that you're going to be doing it on the computer and you're going to be typing it out. I think that this is a very good advantage for Advanced Audit and Assurance because this paper is generally super long. So it does get a benefit to be able to type fast. Be careful, it doesn't spell check. So make sure as long as it's understandable, spelling is not an issue. And you can use that time to think. Second of all, this exam is mostly words. There aren't a lot of numbers, there aren't a lot of calculations. The only calculations that you are expected to do are materiality and some analytical procedures, variances and ratios. So it's not a lot of calculation, it's mostly discursive. Now, what are the most commonly areas that will be tested? In question number 1, you're going to be getting risks, audit risks and business risks. Audit risks, you're going to 100% get audit risks. Everyone is getting audit risks. Business risks, I would say 50% of the people would get business risks. And why am I saying 50% of the people? Because people will get different questions. Then you will definitely get audit procedures are always there on specific areas. On procedures, guys, be careful to be linking it to the scenario, linking it, applying it to that point. Don't use general words. And remember, guys, to be very specific, to be very clear, and not to be very general. Try to think with procedures, and I mention it so many times, and I emphasize on it because procedures are a really good place to get you some really, really good marks, is try to imagine, say that procedure out loud, not in the exam, but in your head. Say it out loud, and then say, can I go and do that? Like, can I go and take that statement? And with that, is that enough for me to do that and give results? Try to think about it that way. Then, of course, we've got ethics, which is tested wildly in the exam throughout the questions, honestly. And sometimes you do get some other syllabus areas. It can be about, I don't know, money laundering, it can be about fraud, it can be about tendering, it can be about internal controls, it can be about other assurance services, it can be about anything. Sometimes they do put some small points there. Question number 2 is generally my matters to consider, which is my knowledge of accounting standard gonna be applied. In this case, this is your completion stage of the audit, while question number 1 is your planning stage of the audit. So in the completion, guys, we do discuss the matters in a little bit more detail because we have done the audit. In the planning, it's very general. You may have risks or ideas of risks. They may not be true. Everything may be going fine, but the risks of things that may be accounted for wrongly. But in question number 2, or the question in section B, sometimes they flip them. In question regarding the completion, you've done the audit. You probably know what's wrong. So you do have to discuss it in a little bit more detail. Remember that generally we follow the MARE principle, materiality, accounting standard, risk, evidences, or procedures. Then we've got audit reports. You may either get criticizing an audit report or giving an audit opinion. You're never going to need to write an actual report. Or you may get both. Yeah, it did happen before. For criticizing the report, I do recommend that you do go out there on Google and try to search some audit reports, read them to see how a general audit report looks. for writing an opinion, please go back to your revision question and all of the knowledge to know and write every single detail. When they're asking about the impact on the audit report, they are not asking about the opinion, just the opinion. The opinion is qualified, let's say. That's not enough. That's only half a mark. Go and write the details and the thought process behind that qualified opinion. Then we can get some quality control, professional issues, another common thing that gets tested in section B. And in here, guys, you need a combination of accounting standards and the knowledge of ISA rules. So remember, at the end of the day, you don't need to write the standard number, you don't need to write the ISA numbers, but you do need to know them. So adequate knowledge of standards and ISAs should be enough to answer this question. The final question, which is the everything up in the air, it can be anything from the syllabus, but mostly we do get other assurance services tested because it hasn't been tested. It hasn't been specifically mentioned where it would be tested, so it is tested in this question. Generally, a combination of a little bit of a knowledge with a little bit of application. Knowledge in terms of what are the matters to consider before we accept or in planning for, let's say, a forensic or a due diligence. Sometimes we've got some general points such as competence and objectivity, but then we have some specific points such as, are we going to be needed to act as expert witness for forensic? So you have to know the knowledge to be able to apply it to the question. Then the actual application is mostly in terms of procedures or evidences of that testing. Then, of course, they generally fill it up with another kind of question. It can be matters, it can be ethics, can be quality, can be professional. Ethics has been tested in all three questions before. Not very commonly, in most cases it's tested in 1 or 2 questions, but it is a very big deal. How to spark out your answer? First of all, guys, you need a good structure, not only for your professional marks that comes in question number 1, but because at the end of the day, guys, markers are human beings, and the CBE does make it better, so you don't have to worry about your handwriting, but do worry about your structure. First of all, guys, bullet points are not allowed except for procedures or evidences. That's it. Don't use them in any other way. Make sure you do use subheadings to split your answer. So when you're answering a matters to consider, materiality, put a heading. Accounting standards, put a heading. You don't have to. I'm not saying you have to do this, guys, but it does tend to look better. Time management. This is very, very important in the advanced audit paper because, as I said, it's long. Especially with the CBE, with the fact that you've got all of the different exhibits. What I do suggest, guys, is please make sure you read the requirement well. I do recommend you copy the requirement into your briefing notes or your answer sheet so you can see it all the time when you're answering, as well with the marks, so you can see how much you should write. And make sure you're reading the right exhibit, because in the requirement they generally do mention using exhibit 1, using exhibit 1 and 2. And just go and read that. You can use your highlighters, you can use your strike-throughs on the platform. They are very, very useful. So you need to be able to use the platform in a very good way. So if you haven't done so already, please make sure that you do go practice on it. I would recommend that you guys read the scenario, especially in question number 1, once. Highlight the areas that you need. Please make sure that you have your exhibit and notes open, and you can even answer or identify and plan your answer while you're reading your scenario. Application. This is a professional level paper. It's not only about knowledge. You need to apply that knowledge to the scenario. So when you've got, let's say, a procedure, it's not going to be a general procedure. It's going to be a procedure that is based on that point discussed on the standard. If you write very general points, guys, you wouldn't get too many marks. But if you apply it to the scenario specific to what the examiner told you about, you will get those marks. So you have to apply it to the scenario. The requirements sometimes can be daunting. We have seen some requirements where it's actually 3 or 4 requirements together. Split it up. That's why I always say do write the requirement inside your answer. And then, for example, let's say we're doing completion question and we've got a matters question and we've got one whole requirement that asks for matters, evidences or actions, and audit opinion. So when you write it up, write these 3 or 4 headings in your answer. My final tip to you guys is to relax. Stress can be a very contributing factor in this exam. I want you not to stress. I want you to relax. Right before the exam, sleep well, have a very good breakfast, feel confident with what you've done so far. It's enough. Just have the confidence that what you've done is enough. Everything that you've done, guys, you worked so hard to get here. So try to be okay. Don't stress on the exam. Be aware of the time, structure well, do your best, and hopefully it's going to be enough for a pass, or maybe even do great in this exam. Good luck.